Hello everyone, are you able to listen to me? Please reply by chat, any one of you. Okay, good. I've logged in at 16:50 and we're going to wait for 5-6 minutes for everyone to log in. I mean, as many as of them who would want to log in, and then we will begin. We have had an overwhelming response, and I'm going to share the statistics with you right at the beginning of my talk so that even you will feel good about it. I will, of course, be telling you only about the statistics of the people who have registered. I don't know how many of them would be logging in. Good, Dr. Mahadev, I can see your good evening from there. I will reply with a namaskar. Anuradha, you are saying namaskar right in the beginning, so that's good. Okay, I will keep myself in English. I mean, I'll restrict myself to English, except very occasionally I might slip into, maybe Hindi, but I don't think that will be a problem. I'm sure most of the people who are not very comfortable in Hindi follow Hindi movies, don't they? So I guess that should be good enough. Even I am waiting for an exciting session, Mr. Datta. Namaskar, Manik. Oh, Gadgil sir, you are there. I am sure Amit and Nitin would be very happy when I tell them that you logged on. We probably will have Nitin on this session. I don't know. But I'm glad that you were able to log in. Namaskar, Dr. Patlwar. Was your wife finally, did she get the link that I had sent? Namaskar, Rajesh bhai. Anil, I have noted your good wishes and I hope they work. Arey wah, Suneet, great to have you here. Venkat, so glad that you could make it. Where is your wife? I don't see her name yet. Maybe she's following you. Normally, husbands follow their wives, so I was expecting you to come in after her. Okay, she will join in. Fine. Suhas ji, I know there will be two sets of believers and non believers, But all over the world there are two sets, so don't worry. I mean, the world gets reflected, the society gets reflected in any small gathering. So I'm sure that's going to happen here. But I don't intend hurting either of them. I only probably will make them, think a little harder than what they have been doing till now. Acha Nitin, glad to hear that you are publicly acknowledging that you are my fan. Incidentally, Gadgil sir is here on this group. Welcome Ravi and Praveen and Sonal. Good, you also could make it. Nupur, good that you could make it. Manjari is already there, I think. We have 56 people who have logged in till now, and 4 of them have already given me a go ahead by giving me a thumb like that. I don't know why they are giving me a thumb. Either the green screen looks good or I look good, because I haven't uttered anything about the subject yet. Alpana, welcome. Okay, Mrs. Patalwar, you are here. Good. चांगलं दिसतंय. नाही येऊ दे, इथे ते चॅट्स येतात बरोबर. Namaskar, Mr. Kulkarni. Oh, Prakash Kumar जी, आप चेन्नई से आ गए हैं. वेरी गुड. We'll start in about 3 minutes. Polls are not possible. I mean, it was possible in Zoom, Suhasji. I don't think you can take a poll here unless I am mistaken. Let's take a poll on WhatsApp after I talk to them. Okay, Mr. Panchal, good that you could make it. We spoke that day on the phone. Namaskar, Aishwarya. You are Nupur's friend, aren't you? Good, Mr. Gupta. You read Jiddu Krishnamurti on this. Very good. Ullas, welcome. Right, I think in half a minute we are going to begin. I'll spend a minute or two in the preliminaries so that, if there are other people who join in, they won't miss much. But after that, then once we get into the subject, once we plunge into the subject, I'm sure people who come in a little late are going to miss a little bit. So I'll just wait for half a minute more and we'll start. Okay, I guess we'll start. So, hearty namaskar to all of you. Let me give you some statistics about the people who have registered for this webinar. A total of 225 approximately have registered for this seminar. Only 70 have logged in till now. Let's hope my experience says that there would be a mortality of about 40%. I'm using the word mortality because our subject today is life after death. So out of 225, I would be happy if about, 150 register for this. Now the statistics is like this. I divided, the gender breakup is like this. We have 28% females and 72% males. So that's a good percentage. Approximately 30-70. As far as work experience goes, we have 7% people without experience. So they must be students. From 1 to 5 years of experience, we have 10%. From 6 to 15 years of experience, we have 15%. From 16 to 25 years of experience, we have 16%, 1/6. And greater than or equal to 26 years of experience, we have 52%. So you can see that the percentage is constantly increasing. As the years of work experience also increases, finally it becomes the maximum around after greater than equal to 26 years. So this is fairly logical. People like us who are nearer to the date of departure are probably more interested in what is going to be said here. I mean, this is a conclusion. Not to say that younger people are not interested. As far as current status goes, this is also a question I had asked in the registration form. We have 7% students. So that I guess corresponds to the 7% of no experience people earlier. We have 33% salaried people. We have 34% self-employed people. So that's a good breakup. We have 5% housewives or house husbands and 21% retired people. So it's a fair distribution amongst all these categories. Lastly, I'd just like to tell you where all have people registered from. Not very surprisingly, 85 people have registered from Nagpur. Now please remember, this is out of that approximate 225 figure. So 85 have registered from Nagpur, about 25 from Pune, 20 from Mumbai and 27 from rest of Maharashtra. So that makes a healthy about 170 people from Maharashtra itself. Then we have 10 people from Bangalore and Mangalore. We have 10 people from Chennai, Hyderabad and Kerala. Then we have 5 people from Ahmedabad and Surat. Then 6 people from Delhi, 9 people from Jammu, Punjab and Kanpur, North India. Then we have only 2 from Eastern India. So Eastern India is relatively less represented. We have 1 from Guwahati and 1 from Orissa, specifically Kalahandi in Orissa. But what was quite, it made me feel good, was that there are 6 people from outside India. 1 from UK, 2 from USA, 1 from Canada, 1 from Singapore and 1 from Hong Kong. But as I said, I do not know whether all these 6 have logged in, but I am not going to keep track of who has logged in. I have just given you a statistics of how the registration pattern went. Fine, so this was what I had wanted to share with you as my preliminary remarks. And let's now get into the main topic, because we have now the figure has touched 83. There are 83 registrations. So theek hai, that's good enough. I'm sure it will increase in the next 5-10 minutes. It will go up further. Now, when I declared this webinar and when I chose this topic, life after death, a thought which always strikes me is that why would people listen to a guy who has no experience in the topic that is being talked about? Like, I have no experience about what happens after death. And so I normally am a little reluctant to speak on such topics where I do not have a decided superiority over my audience, at least in that limited, on that limited topic. But then what, I thought a little harder and I said, fine, I mean, I shouldn't feel embarrassed because none of the guys who are listening to me also have any experience in this topic. So then, the thought was a little comforting, कि ठीक है, if I don't know more than them, or they also know equally as I do, and both of this is zero. None of us know what happens life after death. So for the next 50 to 60 minutes, we are going to enter into a realm of speculation. Speculation is the correct word for this, where things, according to me, at best are opaque, and at worst are even more opaque. So this is going to be a journey like that. One thing is clear, that our journey is going to be very mesmerizing. I've always been telling people that any tales or any stories about death are extremely mesmerizing. Hypnotizing is another word that comes to my mind. They are captivating. I mean, imagine anybody trying to tell you about a topic like this, about what happens after death, and I'm sure you will give your ear to him, saying, "Yaar, tell me what happens." Whether you believe him or not is a different thing. So we are going to have a very mesmerizing and an enjoyable journey. This is the first time you'll enjoy someone talking about, about death. But one thing is also clear, that this journey is going to be very bumpy. Bumpy in the sense, there are many things which I would say which may not, be according to what you have been thinking till now. So I want to make one thing very clear right in the beginning. Whatever I say in the next 50 to 60 minutes is not my opinion. Because we can always debate opinions. But how can we debate what is written in texts? If you say, I don't believe the author, that's fine. I have no fight against you. So everything that I'm going to say in the next 50 to 60 minutes has a reference. So it is not Prakash Shesh's opinions that are being told to you. You may or may not feel very good after listening to them. I'm sure you'll feel good on listening to them, because they are research-based facts which I am going to keep in front of you. So normally intelligent people like us should have a good power of analysis and shouldn't worry about whether the final conclusion is in consonance with our thinking or not. So please fasten your seat belts. We are going to have a very bumpy ride over the next 50 minutes. Now, since the topic is so big, and what I have done is I have divided it into 5 sections. These 5 sections, you'll realize I don't have to name them. These 5 sections correspond to the different broad aspects, of what I'm going to talk on. And at the end of each section, now this is important, at the end of each section, I'm going to take a small pause. And I'm going to pose certain questions depending on what I have just said in that section. So what I say in that section will be what published material says or research papers done by others say. And the questions which I am posing are the questions which, rise in my mind, and I am sure the questions will rise in your mind also. I don't expect any answers. Obviously, the medium that we are using, I'm not expecting you to give me answers. But I am expecting you to ask those questions to yourself. In the last section, that means after I have finished all the 5 sections, in the last section, that means the 6th section, I am going to tell you what my opinions are. That is the only section where I am going to tell you my opinions. So therefore, in the first 5 sections, you're going to listen to facts as they exist. Unverified facts, I would like to call them. But if they were verified facts, then there wouldn't have been any discussion on this topic at all. In the last section, I am going to give you my opinion, and then we are going to just end there. We are going to have a Q&A session after I have given my opinion. My experience is that the Q&A section is a very hectic kind of a session where everybody wants to ask questions, but it's all right. I don't expect you to curb those tendencies of yours. Only thing would be that if I start answering all the questions, it might take another 45 minutes, which I am sure all of you have not budgeted. So what I have decided I'll do is that since all the chat questions which come through, they get stored. So I'll, over the next 1 week or so, send out an email to all of you saying that these are my answers to those questions which were not answered during the webinar. So I think that would be fair enough. But please don't mind if I don't answer some questions and answer some questions. It is primarily due to paucity of time. Okay, enough of introduction and what we are going to do. Let's start by defining death. Since we are going to talk about life after death, it's important that we define death. Now, I have defined death as when your heart stops and when your brain dies. Both these things must happen in order for us to say that death has occurred. If your heart stops, all of us know that after your heart stopping, which means the blood is no longer being pumped into the body, similarly, it's no longer being pumped into the brain also. The brain doesn't die immediately. It takes about 5 minutes, maybe 6 minutes, around that time to die because of paucity of oxygen which the blood carries. So brain death and heart death, these are two different things. For our webinar, for our discussion, death means heart has stopped, brain has also died. Okay, now what does life after death mean? Now, life after death means you can say it is a correlation of any matter or energy or entity after death, which you can correlate with the person who was living earlier. Like suppose when Prakash Shesh dies, then something you find after death, you can correlate with Prakash Shesh. Ki, haan, this belonged to Prakash Shesh, or this energy belonged to Prakash Shesh. So obviously it cannot be in the same form as we are today. It can't be our body because our body is either buried or burnt or destroyed. So we are aware that we cannot have the same body after death. But there are many theories. So I am saying that anything, it could be energy, it could be matter, it could be an entity, but you must be able to correlate that entity after Prakash Shesh dies with Prakash Shesh when he was alive. So if you can establish this correlation, then we will call that as life after death. Okay? So life does not mean necessarily what we are living just now before death. So this is how I am defining death, and this is how I am defining life after death as far as this webinar of ours is concerned. Alright. Now I am entering section 1 after defining this. Now this life after death as a concept has been floated by religions. And therefore I am going to start with religion. So in section 1, we are going to start with religion, and within the religion I am going to start with Hinduism. Why? Because most of us are Hindus, the ones who are present here, and Hindus constitute a majority of our country. But I am going to touch other religions also. But I want to start with Hinduism. Now, religion has once again such mesmerizing stories and such hypnotizing stories about what happens after death, that I personally feel J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, etc. start appearing like kindergarten stuff. They could be textbooks for KG1, KG2. If you really read the religious stories or mythological stories, especially the ones which are related to death, they're absolutely hypnotic. Now, the first concept that religions have floated, and most of the religions have floated, is the soul, जिसको हम आत्मा कहते हैं. Because most religions claim that after our body dies, when we die, the soul lives. And they have, of course, various theories about what the soul does. So we'll start with the soul, because that's completely an idea floated by religions. So we'll start with that. Now, let me tell you, in 1901, there was a guy called Duncan McDougall. He's a Scottish guy, Duncan McDougall. He carried out an experiment to find out whether the soul weighs something. He had heard the theory saying that when the human body dies, the soul escapes, whichever way it escapes. He didn't know how it escaped, nor was anyone willing to explain to him. But he said, as a scientist, let me find out whether the body of the body of the person who died, did it reduce by some amount after he died? So you must have heard about that famous experiment. He kept a person who was about to die in a glass case, and he weighed that glass case plus the body. And then the person died while he was in the glass case, and he measured the weight later on. He wanted to find out if immediately after death, the weight of the body, obviously it can't increase because nothing seems to have got added to it. But if it reduces, then he says whatever is the reduction will be the weight of the soul. That was the experiment in 1901. So he carried out his experiment, and he came out with a conclusion that the soul of a human body weighs 21 grams. A very accurate conclusion, 21 grams. Not 50 grams, not 100 grams, but 21 grams. Now, like it happens in such cases, as soon as a scientist comes out with a conclusion, hundreds of other scientists pounce upon his conclusion to find out, to verify whether this is true or not. Similarly, this theory, as soon as it was propounded by Douglas McDougall in 1901, many scientists wanted to verify whether it really happens like that. And in about 3 months' time, they completely debunked Douglas McDougall's theory, saying that this guy doesn't know what he was doing. The physical balances, the accuracy of those balances was not good enough in 1901 to measure a difference of about 21 grams in an average, let's say 65-70 kgs body. They said the accuracy of the balance itself is not so good. So how can this guy come and proclaim to the world that the soul weighs 21 grams? So within 3 months of his having propounded this theory, the theory got torn to smithereens. They said this is nonsense. And therefore, the scientist couldn't do anything, because when your colleagues debunk you so much, then I guess your theory dies with you. And that's what happened. But let's see what Hinduism has to say about this soul business. Hinduism is very clear. It says after you die, the soul escapes. It goes through a long dark tunnel. That's important. It goes through a long dark tunnel. Now you might remember that when there is a death in a Hindu family, usually when the body is taken away for a funeral, the place where the body was kept in the house before he or she was carried away, you light an earthen lamp. Now why do you light an earthen lamp? Because of the belief that when this soul goes through that long dark tunnel, he must have some light to guide him, because he has nothing. So therefore that light earthen lamp, the logic behind the religious logic behind that earthen lamp was that it is to guide that soul when he goes through that long dark tunnel. So he goes through that long dark tunnel, he goes to Chitragupta. Chitragupta is a guy who's calculating your punya and pap, that means your sins and good things. And then he decides whether the soul should go to Nark or it should go to Swarg. These are the two concepts. You will realize that most of the religions have different names, but they are similar, that the soul goes to either Swarg or Nark. But in Hinduism, it doesn't stop there. This going to the Swarg or Nark is a temporary phase before it is decided how the soul will get reborn. So the final stage of the soul, or the journey of the soul according to Hinduism, is you die, the soul escapes, goes through the long dark tunnel, reaches Chitragupta, where his accounting is done. If his karma is good, he is assigned Swarg. If his karma is bad, he is assigned Nark, and temporarily until it is decided how he will get reborn. And obviously all of us know that what you get reborn is depending upon your karma. So you might have been a human being in this birth, but in the next birth, because you did a lot of pap in this birth, you might get reborn as maybe a cockroach, or maybe a dog, or maybe something else, because all those animal categories are considered to be much below the human category. But if you have done well, you might get reborn as a human being. So this is a theory which most of us know. But the conclusion that I want you to carry now, after I have said this, is that according to this theory floated by Hinduism, all of us are we are always in either a before life or an afterlife. We are in the afterlife of our previous life, and we are in the before life of our next life. So all of us are constantly either in a before life or an afterlife situation. And Hinduism then goes on to say that our main objective of a Hindu should be to get out of this cycle of rebirth. So you keep getting born as someone based on your karma, and then you again die, and then you again get reborn as something. Now, unless you follow those 84 or 86 or whatever number of births that you take on this earth, thereafter you will get what is known as moksha. Moksha is nirvana, or maybe you get salvation. You get away from this cycle of rebirth. Now, this is broadly the theory that Hinduism propounds about life after death. Now, there is an excellent book, I don't know, I'm sure you must have heard of it. There is a book called Garud Puran. Garud is the vehicle of Lord Vishnu. And apparently, Garud Puran contains minute details about what should be done after a person dies. I mean, it tells you what should be done within the first 1 hour. Then it tells you what should be done on the first day, second day, third day, right up to 14th day. Okay? Now, I don't claim to have read Garud Puran, but the Garud Puran is better than any ISO manual that you can come across in any big 5,000 crores company in India or anywhere. It is written in such great details. Why I am comparing it with an ISO manual is because in ISO manual also you do a similar thing. You write down what you are wanting to do, and then you do what you have just written. This is precisely what is written in that Garud Puran. And Garud Puran basically dictates all the rituals that take place in Hindu homes after death. I would strongly suggest that, I'm sure you will never read, because it has some 16 chapters. and I'm sure you will not be motivated enough to read 16 chapters about what should be done after death. One mystery remains as to why Vishnu thought it proper to dictate this Puran to a bird who was his vehicle, which was his vehicle. But I will leave that apart. I mean, it's called Garud Puran because Garud is the vehicle of Lord Vishnu, and that's how things are. So, what I would still suggest to you is to go to Google. There is an excellent treatise written by Woods and Subramaniam. You know, these are two authors. Subramaniam obviously is a Tamilian, and Woods is a foreigner. So, if you go to Google and put in the search terms Garud Puran by Woods and Subramaniam, you will get many salient features of that Garud Puran, which I am sure are much better than reading those 16 chapters. I am sure you don't have the motivation to read 16 chapters. But I'll bring you some interesting aspects of Garud Puran before we come to the end of this section 1 about Hinduism's take on life after death. Now, if you open Garud Puran, right at the beginning it chides you, it scolds you, it tells you, why are you looking for something which is already inside you? To borrow a Hindi expression which people use, in English it says truth is within you, but you are searching it everywhere. It says bakri bagal mein hai aur dhoond rahe ho usko kuएं mein. So these are muhavras, of course, which all mean the same thing. That you have all the knowledge that is written in this Garud Puran, but still you are going hither thither to find out what should be done, after death. There is another interesting sidelight. I'll come to it. I'll tell you right away because Garud Puran has an interesting chapter. But please don't feel that this is the only thing that's written in Garud Puran. You might come to the conclusion this guy is telling us something which is 1% of what is written in the Garud Puran. I agree, because this talk is not on Garud Puran. It is on life after death. So what interesting sidelights I have brought for you. Garud Puran tries to answer the question, who will become a ghost? Ghost is a bhoot. So it has given 14 situations in which if a person dies, then he will become a ghost. So I am just going to read out those 14 situations for you. As I have said again, I do not want to, force you to believe them, but they are interesting and entertaining to at least listen to. Okay, situation number 1, if a person has committed suicide, he will become a ghost. This is situation number 1. I am going to read out 14 as written in Garud Puran. This is not written by Prakash Shesh, nor does it carry an opinion of Prakash Shesh. It is what is written in Garud Puran. And I think all of you must be aware, because even today, every ritual that is carried out in Hindu homes, and therefore is going to be carried out on you and I also, we won't of course be knowing at the time because we would be dead, but I think we should at least know what that book says. So if you commit suicide, you will become a ghost. If you die of cholera, you will become a ghost. Now we can give them some concession, because in those days cholera was a killer. So it's all right. If Garud Puran was written today, probably they would have written polio or COVID or something like that. Number 3, if you were burnt alive. If you were burnt alive, you would become a ghost. Number 4 is if you are killed by robbers. I don't know how all these things got into it, but apparently this was dictated by Lord Vishnu, so it must be correct. Number 5 is those who forget Vishnu. This is logical because the author always wants people to remember him. Number 6 is if no sacred rites are conducted on your body after you die. Number 7, if you are killed by a dog bite. I don't know why dog bites were specifically mentioned, and these are fairly specific issues. They are not broad and nebulous kinds of things. So if you die of a dog bite, I guess you're going to become a ghost. Number 9 is if you fall from the mountains. Now in those days, olden days, falling from the mountains was equivalent to giving you a death punishment. So therefore, I guess that was probably included because it was an indication that you were a papi atma. So you'll become a ghost. Next was if you kill a Brahmin. If by chance if you kill a Brahmin, you will become a ghost. The next one is if you kill a cow. These are explainable, understandable also. Now, the last three are really entertaining, I would say. I don't know. Many of the guys who are listening to this may probably go to hell, or sorry, not go to hell, will become ghost. If you drink liquor, gone. I think 90% of this webinar audience goes to is going to become a ghost, because Vishnu Puran says that if you drink liquor, then you're going to become a ghost. If you enjoy another's wife, now this is also, I thought, was very peculiar. The women are not being punished. If a man enjoys someone else's wife, then he will become a ghost. But what happens to that woman who has also been a part in the crime? It is silent on that. And the last one, the 14th situation, is that if you allow Shudras to help you when you are performing a puja or a yajna. So the class consciousness was so severe that if you allowed a Shudra person, that means of the lowest caste, to help you perform a religious duty, then Garud Puran says that you would go to hell. I'm so sorry, I keep making that mistake, that you will become a ghost. Alright, I am coming to the end of section 1. And these are 4 or 5 questions that I am going to pose before we go to section 2. My first question is, most of us have heard of this theory of, a ghost versus atripta atma. All of us, are told constantly that if you die with some wish of yours not fulfilled, then there are good chances that you will become a ghost. Now, I don't know whether how much logic this particular conclusion carries. The same logic carries, when we have that ritual of the crow touching our pinda during you make those rice balls and then you make the crow touch it, and when the crow doesn't touch it, you always conclude that some wish of the person who is dead has not been fulfilled. It's known as kakasparsha in Sanskrit. I don't know. First of all, if a person dies and if he dies with some of his wishes not fulfilled, I have yet to come across a person whose all his wishes are fulfilled. So with this theory, every one of us is going to become a ghost. But even then, suppose it was my wish that I should address a webinar on YouTube streaming, and before I could do that, I die. Now what happens? I become a ghost and roam around, and probably I'll keep troubling the guys who are trying to do YouTube streaming by telling them that if I couldn't do this, I will not allow you also to do this. Many of our Hindi films are full of such stories, wherein the ghost troubles the person who is living for something that the other guy did. Maybe the other guy murdered him, and then this ghost comes and troubles him until that guy either commits suicide or dies himself. A huge number of our Hindi film stories are based on this kind of a. So I personally don't agree with this atripta atma versus ghost theory, mainly because of the reason that even if you presume that there is an atma, that atma doesn't have a knowledge about whose atma it was. How does it know that it was Prakash Shesha's atma? Because it doesn't have any brain, it doesn't have a memory, it doesn't have eyes, it doesn't have any of the organs through which. So when a computer dies, when the hard disk is destroyed, so how can that memory remain with that atma for him to know that where was my unfulfilled wish and where should I go to fulfill those wishes, or whom should I trouble and things like that. So since there is no memory unit attached to the soul, I somehow feel this is a little dicey. Second question that I want to raise is that if every death brings us nearer to moksha or the salvation, then why is death such a sad event? Because ultimately our main objective is to go through those many recycles of birth and death, so that we come every time nearer to our moksha. So therefore I can understand that death can be full of grief, because somebody whom you know is whom you know is dying. That's fine. But in that grief there should be one small element of celebration also, that the person who has died has got that much closer to the final salvation. Now I don't see this thought anywhere. There is a community I have come across, when I was a young person, there is a community who, in their funeral, they have a band. Band means orchestra playing music, just like we do for wedding processions. And when I inquired, I found out that they had this feeling that this is not an occasion for condolence, it is an occasion for happiness, because this guy has come at least one birth closer to the final salvation. So I guess that philosophy existed, but bulk of the times it doesn't exist. My third question in this is that, suppose, okay, you did pap in this, your karma was very bad, so you got reborn as a dog, let us say. Now, can you never become a human being again? So after becoming a dog, you should follow the karma of a dog in order to be classified as a punyatma, though you are the atma of the dog. And what is the main function of a dog? He bites people, chases people, barks at them. So I guess as a dog, if you do all that, then you will probably be rewarded by a higher birth. But Garuda Purana or none of the literature that I have come across talks about how do you come back to the human birth, or once you are assigned to some lower kind of a birth, in the sense that of an animal or something, then is it true that you can never become a human being again? But I have scoured the literature here and there, and I did not get an answer to this. My last question in this section is that if a soul gets a fresh body, that means he gets reborn. So he gets a fresh body. Then why are we committing Shraddha every year? For example, Prakashesh dies. So his relatives and everyone is performing a Shraddha, God knows, for 25-30 years. By that time, the soul has already got reborn as someone else. So when you perform a Shraddha, whatever you are going to wish, you're giving him eatables, you're sending some wishes of yours, they would not be reaching them, no, because he has already got born as someone else. So why do we keep performing Shraddha for times immemorial, like we keep performing the Shraddha until we die ourselves? Finally, there is one more question in this section, that in Hinduism we find that there are two sects of Brahmins. One sect of Brahmins perform the punya functions like marriage and vastu and birth ceremony or whatever, and the other people perform the death ceremonies. So there is such a watertight compartment between these two that the guys who are performing death ceremonies are not allowed to perform the Shubha ceremonies. I have never understood why this is so, because both sects are Brahmins. Both sects only follow a different manual. These people follow Garuda Puran, the other person follows maybe whatever, Vedas or Upanishads or whatever. So why such a differentiation exists between these two sects? These are some of the questions which I have posed. Please turn them around in your mind and seek answers yourselves. I am not going to answer them. Okay, we go to section 2. Now we go to other religions. Let me quickly go through the other religions, because most of these religions are very similar to what Hinduism thinks and does post-death. You go to Christianity, there the soul goes to St. Peter's. Once again, his pluses and minuses are discussed. If he is holy enough, he is put into heaven. If he is not his karma is not good, he is put into hell. But amongst Roman Catholics, there is an additional belief. And what is this additional belief? They have a belief about something called purgatory. Purgatory means somewhere people can be improved, like what we call as penitentiary for people in. So therefore, if the soul has not done good deeds, I can understand he goes to hell. If he has done good deeds, he goes to heaven. But they also have a third classification, Roman Catholics, and they say, nahi, is this soul subject to improvement? Can we improve him? Whatever that means. But anyway, they put him into what is known as purgatory, where attempts are made to improve the soul. And if he improves, then he is put into heaven. Otherwise, he is assigned to hell. Fairly similar, but Christianity does not believe in rebirth. So that's one major difference. Let's go to Islam. Islam says, again has Jannat and Jahannam. Once again corresponding to Jannat is heaven and Jahannam is hell. Now they have something like, after a person dies, his soul goes to uh, a building which has 8 stories. And lower the verse, if your soul is assigned to the, let's say, 0th story, that means the dungeon or the bottom, then you have to conclude that you were a papi person when you lived. The higher you go, the better it is. So that's what Islam says. There are 8 gates also there in that building. So therefore, the concept is fairly similar, but Islam once again does not believe in rebirth. So one major difference between what Islam says and what Hinduism says, Islam and Christianity, both of them do not believe in rebirth. Then we come to Buddhism. Buddhism does believe in reincarnation, but they don't have this. They don't believe in God. Buddhism is the only religion which is a atheistic religion. It has taken birth in India, but it is an atheistic religion, so they don't think there is any God. Even Gautam Buddha is not a God. But they somehow feel that based on your deeds, you are reincarnated, similar to the concept of rebirth in Hinduism. Then you go to Parsi, that means Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism says that after you die, the soul lingers near the body for 3 days. 3 days. Huh? Then it departs towards Yima. Now, the Hindu god of death is Yama, but the Parsi god is known as Yima, Y-I-M-A. So obviously, within those 3 days, it is assessed whether the soul has done good. That means the person whom the soul belonged to, did he do good deeds or bad deeds? And imagine what they say, slightly different than what we have been saying till now. They feel that after 3 days, I don't know if the dead person obviously can't see, but the soul can see. So if the soul sees a beautiful woman, a beautiful ravishing woman who's sitting at the foot near the head of the dead body, then the soul is going to go to heaven. And if they see an old naked hag, in both cases it is women, please note that, then the soul knows that it is assigned to hell. Okay, I am quickly coming to the end of section 2 because the beliefs are fairly similar. And I don't know where the beliefs have come from because they have been written in some books and therefore they are followed. But okay, some of the questions that I am posing at the end of this section 2 are as follows. Don't you think these beliefs are a little too specific? Like 84 rebirths, 8 stories. They're very specific. 3 days in case of Parsis. Has somebody come back to this side of the line after dying? Because you could have told us that yes, there are 8 stories, 7 gates, whatever. I think they are a little too specific, too mathematical. We belong to the kind of people who, if Big Bazaar is announcing a discount of 5% next Wednesday, we will postpone the purchase of our grocery by 1 week. Why? Because Big Bazaar is giving a 5% discount. So we are so calculative. But when it comes to all these statements, I am once again saying these are statements. We believe them as if, we believe them very easily. That's what I felt. Now, they taught us marketing management in our MBA institute. And the first principle was marketing was that you find out what the need of the customer is and then offer your product or service to satisfy that need. This was very roughly the core thought of marketing management. Now, somehow when I look at all this, I personally feel that religion has studied this very carefully. What is the biggest wish that most of us have, including me? We all want to become immortal. We don't want to die, somehow. And here comes religion with a product or a service which tries to satisfy this need of ours. What does it say? No, you're not going to die. Even if your body dies, your soul lives. And there is a chance that you will come back to the earth in some other body. So every religion has different ways of convincing their flock that you're not going to permanently die. In some form or the other, you're going to stay. And therefore, I think people are so enamored of religion that they are not willing to listen to anything against that, though otherwise in their normal life they would be one of the most logical people. But यहाँ उनको, if you tell them there are 8 buildings and 7 births and there is a long dark tunnel, they quickly believe this, because all of them are wanting. So according to my theory, most of these religious beliefs rob death of its terror. Death is terrifying to all of us, terribly terrifying. And religion comes along and tells you it is not as terrifying as you think it is. So therefore, we tend to believe all this quickly. But fine. I mean, according to me, this is the main reason that religion helps us rob death of its terror. So we feel a little. There is one last question of mine, that all across the world, all across the previous 5, 6, 800,000 years, there has not been a single rebirth case in Islam. Have you ever wondered about why there are no rebirth cases in Islam? I mean, there are many rebirth cases reported in many other religions, especially Hinduism and Buddhism. But there are no rebirth cases reported in Islam. Think about it, why this is so. According to me, it is so because right from childhood, all Muslims are taught that there is no rebirth. So therefore, there is no case of rebirth reported from that community. I mean, this is what appears to me as a logical answer. So there was a lady called Susan Blackmore who did, she did about 25 years of research in parapsychology. You can go and search her on Google. And she has come to a conclusion that there is no empirical evidence of an afterlife. Empirical means, I'm not able to explain it, but yes, there is an instance like that. So the Susan Blackmore is an important lady, and you can go and search her on Google, and 25 years of her research says that she has not found a single evidence of an afterlife kind of a situation. Okay, we are going to section 3 now. We have completed religions, we are now going towards science. Section 3 is titled Near-Death Experiences. Now, there was a nurse called Penny Sarton, Penny Sarton. She was in Wales, that means England. She was a nurse in the ICU of a hospital in 2008. And she had been a nurse for a number of years, something like over a decade. And she was a research-minded nurse. So what she did was, since it was an ICU, many patients died while they were on the operation table. And she noted down all the details about when somebody died. Now, similar to the deaths, there were also many cases where people after death were revived. They were revived. So now she specially noted down, and her notes have been accepted as genuine research by the medical fraternity. That yes, this nurse has kept a very good log, and they specially studied those logs where a person was certified dead by the doctors, but in after 3 to 4 minutes he was again revived by giving electric shocks or maybe whatever else. So they specially studied those, and she has written in her notes that these are also called as out-of-body experiences. She has said that most of the people who were revived first said that we came out of our bodies. So that means we could see our body right there as lying on the operation table. And then they said we went through a dark area, but there was a white bright light at the end of that dark area. And we suddenly felt very good about it. We were feeling very, very happy about it until we were jolted back. That was the time probably when they were revived. Now, most of the near-death experiences were similar to this. They might have had some of them were startling in nature. Like that guy who had died for those 3-4 minutes could recall that, when I died or whatever, when I lost my senses, this oxygen cylinder was here. Then how come now the oxygen cylinder is somewhere else? Now the doctors couldn't explain this at all, because they said this guy was dead for those 3-4 minutes and the oxygen cylinder had actually been shifted. So therefore, how did he see this? Because he was supposed to be dead. So there are many unexplained phenomena, but today's research of psychologists and medical people say that near-death experiences are real. There is no superstition in near-death experiences. They explain the phenomena in a manner which I started off my talk with, saying that there is a time gap of 4 to 5 minutes between the time that the heart stops and the time that the brain dies. So therefore what happens is, in these 4 minutes, this is an explanation given by doctors and psychologists, that in these 4 minutes the brain develops various images in front of your mind. You are not completely dead, your heart has stopped, but the brain has not stopped, and the brain has this ability of creating images. And how does the brain create images? Based on what you have been taught right since childhood. So people, Christian people who die, or Hindu people who die, or Islamists who die and then are revived, they come out with the same kind of experience as what they have been taught right since childhood. So this is what the doctor's explanation is, that this is what the brain is suggesting in those 3 or 4 minutes. It looks miraculous, but one thing is clear, that near-death experiences are absolutely real. They are not fake. There have been books written on Penny Sarton's research, and you could probably go through them. Now we come to section 4, and the title of this section is Reincarnation. Because do people get born? A lot of research has been done on reincarnation. You can go to Google and check there was a psychiatrist called Ian Stevenson. He was head of the Department of Psychiatry in Virginia University, USA. He was supposed to be a good academician and a very competent professor. And he has done a tremendous amount of research on reincarnation without taking any religious aspect into consideration. He said, I am deliberately keeping religion away because religion has different views and theories. I want to go on empirical evidence, which means I will study the cases where reincarnation is being claimed. And if you want, you can read one of his books which says Where Reincarnation and Biology Intersect. That's the title of his book, When Reincarnation and Biology Intersect. And he's written something like 30 books in those 40 years that he was doing research on reincarnation. And he is a great supporter of reincarnation in spite of being a scientist. But once again, Ian Stevenson has not got any support from his fellow scientists. They say his conclusions are weird. This is what his fellow scientists say. Let me give you another example. He's closer to India. You must have heard the name of Dr. Kovur. Dr. Kovur was a Sri Lankan national. He was a medical doctor. And he spent his entire life in researching rebirth cases. He has written an excellent book. I understand that he came to Nagpur also. Of course, I was not alive then, before my birth. He came to Nagpur to investigate. He had, told people that anywhere you claim that rebirth has taken place. We read in papers that some small kid is claiming that he was the, guy who was murdered in Jalandhar 3 years ago, and I am reborn and then he also shows that, look, I was murdered with an axe, and there was a sign on my forehead, an axe wound. And he said, look, when I was born, I have a similar axe wound here. So there have been many, many such cases. Of course, as compared to the total population of India, the percentage is not substantial at all. But there have been fair amount of cases, numbers of cases, where such a rebirth has been reported. Now, Dr. Kovur made his life mission, and he said that I decided to investigate every rebirth case that was reported to me. So there is a book of his in which he has analyzed 63 cases of rebirth. He says, I would go to that place, I would interview that guy, I would also go to that other village wherever this guy says he was in his previous birth, he was so and so. He would investigate. So he said, I have done detailed investigation of many cases, but 63 cases definitely, and he's written about them in his book. Now you should read that book. He says, this is what Dr. Kovur says. Once again, no opinion expressed till now is my opinion. Everything is based on what someone else has written and what someone else believes in. It is for us to decide which one to follow and which one not to follow. Dr. Kovoor goes on to say that out of those 63 cases, he says, I did not find even one true case of reincarnation, which means of rebirth. And you may be surprised to know that when he was alive in 1963, he had kept a prize of 1 lakh Sri Lankan rupees for anybody who could come and claim, who could come and demonstrate that there is a rebirth or anything which goes against principles of science like magic and things like that. He died in 1978, Kovoor. Then there was a gentleman called Basava Premanand. He was an Indian rationalist, so he kept a prize of 1 lakh Indian rupees. Later on, he also died. Now, currently, the Indian Rationalist Association has kept a prize of the same 1 lakh rupees for anybody who could come and, demonstrate to them something like reincarnation, rebirth, or any such thing. You might be also interested in knowing that this is not an Indian phenomenon. There are 26 prizes declared all over the world, almost in every nation from US to UK to Switzerland to Europe and even this side on Singapore. 26 prizes which say that if you come and demonstrate any paranormal thing or any supernatural thing or any occult related thing, and if you can demonstrate it to us in a neutral territory, you can claim that prize. All that I want to tell you is that in the last 40 years, none of these prizes have been claimed. This is just a matter for your digestion. I have nothing to say about it. So therefore, according to Dr. Kovoor, but here we have Ian Stevenson says that he feels reincarnation exists, and Dr. Kovoor says that every case that he has investigated has turned out to be not a good case, not a genuine case. Finally, we come to the last section of our talk. This is known as past life regression. Past life regression. Now, I don't know, you must have heard of a scientist, a psychiatrist called Dr. Brian Weiss, Weiss. Now, he's a dada in his field, so you can't trifle with his opinion. He was, I think, a MD, that means a doctor of medicine in psychiatry. He was head of the Department of Psychiatry at Yale and Columbia Universities in USA. You can't get more than these, more 24-carat universities than these. So, look at what he says. He says during some of his hypnotherapy sessions, he was a psychiatrist. He says, I could take my subject to his previous lives. And not only one previous life, but in some cases, he has written a good book. Well, I don't know whether to call it a good book or not. You should decide whether it's a good book or not. The title of the book is Many Lives, Many Masters. A very famous book. And he, has published a book in which he has written about many experiences where, when he was taking his patients through the psychiatry process or hypnosis process, he said, I could take him back many births into many of his previous lives. And the theory of past life regression is that certain problems that you face in this life can be solved by going and tracing out their origins in some of your previous lives. This is what the past life regression theory says. I'm sure in every town there is some psychiatrist who is practicing this. Though I don't know how many people go to him or her. But Dr. Brian Weiss is the biggest proponent of this theory of past life regression. And he considers it as a therapeutic tool. That means he will cure some of the maladies that you have in this birth by taking you through hypnosis into a previous birth and then curing them. Now, as I told you, when one scientist propounds a theory, there are others who come out to destroy them and see if they could destroy them. So there was another scientist called Robert Baker. Now this guy said, yeah, past life regression sounds like magic. It doesn't look believable. It might be true, but we don't have any empirical evidence also. So therefore, Robert Baker says he carried out a famous experiment. And famous experiment was he took a group of 60 people, divided them into 3 groups of 20 each, put them into 3 different rooms. In the first room, the 20 people were addressed by a guy who told them that past life regression is one of the most wonderful curative tools which modern psychiatry has invented. The second group of 20, another guy spoke to them saying that, this is a new tool, but it's a so-so kind of a tool. Its error rate is quite high. It's not a very accurate tool, but it is a tool. And for the third group of 20, a guy came and denounced past life regression, saying that this is completely mumbo jumbo, इसमें कोई दम नहीं है, and I don't think as doctors we should follow this. Now, after these 1 hour lectures were given to these three groups of 20, which comprised of similar kind of people, they were of the same age, they were at the same education level in their lives and things like that. Then thereafter, they were interviewed to find out what do they think of past life regression. And they were educated people. It's not that they were school-going children. They were educated people. Many of them were also doctors, but not of psychiatry. They found that the first group where past life regression had been praised like anything, 85% of the people felt that it is a good therapeutic tool and it's an effective tool. The second group, where they were told that it's a so-so kind of a tool, 60% people felt that it might work. And in the third group, they found only 10% that this could be a good tool. So Robert Baker kept saying that you can manufacture belief. You can manufacture belief by addressing those people, and whether if you address them positively, they'll start thinking positively. So once again, Robert Baker says that most of our beliefs are as a result of programming of our brain, and this is what he. Go to YouTube, you'll also see some crazy videos. Now, I was telling you, Brian Weiss is an excellent 24-carat kind of a psychiatrist, but a very, very small percentage, in fact, almost no person who follows psychology or psychiatry supported his theories. So as a result, past life regression continues to be a magical kind of a cure which is practiced today, but it has not got the kind of professional acceptance that it should have got if it was such a good theory. So this is where we have come up to the end of our section 5. There was one thing, if you go to YouTube and check on Brian Weiss, you will also find some videos about future life regression. Past life regression at least sounded a little, I wouldn't say it sounded okay, but at least one could put it in your brain. But what about future life regression? Future life progression. Regression means coming back. So future life progression. Now, take a look at those videos and you can form your own opinion. You don't have to go according. As I'm telling you, I'm just keeping matter in front of you and raising questions here and there so that it will help you to form your own opinion. Because as I said, I have not gone to that side of life and I have not come back. So therefore, you need to form your own opinion. But as promised in this last section, I'm going to give you my opinion. For whatever they are worth, please throw them in the waste paper basket if you think they are not worth considering. But I have come to 4 conclusions based on all this research that I did for this session. My first research says, the first principle of what I think is that our brain is like a kaleidoscope. Kaleidoscope, when we were children, we used to rotate that tube and it had pieces of glass inside, and by rotating that, those glasses used to form different combinations, and it used to give rise to different images. Our brain is exactly like that. Based on whatever input goes into the brain throughout our life, it creates images, combinations, kaleidoscope of various things. So it will make us believe many kinds of things, and I would refer you to that near-death experience where you can see a dark tunnel, where you can see a bright light, where you start feeling good, because that's exactly how you have been told hundreds of times at home. So same is the case with no rebirth cases at all being reported from Islam, because right from childhood they have been told that rebirth hai hi nahi. So not even a single person stands up and says that there is a rebirth case amongst the Muslims staying in our town. These are images created by the brain, and they convince us that this is how it is. My second conclusion is that based on all the evidence, research papers done by various people, I personally feel that there is no afterlife. This is my personal opinion, that I don't think there is anything beyond our life. Once we die, that's going to be the end of us. There is no, I would say, there is no soul according to me, or even if it is there, it doesn't do the kind of things that many religions tell us to. Because soul continues to be an unproven kind of a concept. Even empirical evidence would have been fine. I mean, suppose you show people that, look, like in India, we have something like 15 lakh deaths in a year, a little more also. So can we not demonstrate a single case of rebirth? Somebody, while registering for this, said that why is our population increasing? Where are these extra souls coming from? Like India's population is going up and up and up. So where are these extra souls coming up? Now I told them that these extra souls must be coming up. I mean, if you really think logically, they must be coming up from, they were reborn as not as human beings. So they did good karma in that birth of theirs, and therefore they were reborn as human beings. So last janam mein somebody who was a dog or a cat or something has become a human. That's how the souls are getting added. But that gentleman felt, that he can't explain where the number of souls is increasing. But my feeling is that I don't think there is any afterlife. It's going to end with us, and it's going to permanently end. But as I said, I am always skeptical of believing something 100%. So in my mind, I have kept a 1% space. I have kept a 1% space. Suppose tomorrow it is proven in my lifetime that indeed there is a soul. Then I shouldn't feel very, very bad saying that all throughout my life I have been saying there is no soul, and now it is proved. So I have kept a 1% space in my brain to accept the possibility that a soul probably exists and probably gets reborn. My third conclusion is that in life we must give importance to statistics. When I say statistics, I mean we say ki B happens because of A. All right. How many times has that happened? I mean, if you take 1,000 cases of A, do they all result in B? Or they don't have to result in B 100% of the times. They have to, do that at least more than 50% of the times. Statistics says that if a conclusion is done more than 50%, then it can be called a theory. There are many sciences with us, like psychology is not a perfect science. Its conclusions are only 60-70% true. Sociology is not a perfect science. Political science is not a perfect science. But physics, chemistry, mathematics are perfect sciences. Whatever they predict 100% of the times happens. Even medicine is not a perfect science, because if a guy has fever, then 10% of the times crocin doesn't work on him. So we'll have to say, I mean, there are similar other instances also. Medicine does not claim that it is 100% true. So we do not require something to be 100% true for accepting it. But at least it should be more than 50% true in a large enough sample size. So you can't come to a conclusion based on what happened in 1 or 2 cases. You have to find out thousands of such cases or hundreds of such cases, and if more than 50% of the times the conclusion is what you think it is, then you can say that this is a theorem. You could do that. So in life, I think we should all accept statistics as our master. Believe what statistics says is true. Currently disbelieve what statistics says is unproven. Keep a possibility that sometimes it might be proven, but as of now, it is not proven. If we follow that method, I think many of us will avoid the so many superstitions and things like that, like things that we carry in our mind, in spite of being highly educated and highly analytical. And my last conclusion from the entire subject is that if you really want to live after death, I mean, in spite of this, we have this basic urge of becoming immortal, don't we? As I said, all human beings want to be immortal. Even Ravana in Ramayana, first asked the boon of being made immortal. But then when Brahma said, no, I can't make you immortal, then he asked something else which he thought will make him immortal. So there are many mythological stories where even people like Ramayana, even in stories like Ramayana, or people ask for immortality. So my conclusion is that if you really want to become immortal, there is one way of becoming immortal instead of believing in all this. And according to me, that is, you donate your organs or donate your body. At least your organs and your body in some manner will stay beyond your death. If your heart is ticking in someone else's body, if your eyes are working in someone else's body, if your kidney is working in someone else's body, I mean, what better can there be other than this life after death? You actually are getting a life after death, though you are not experiencing it because you are dead and gone. But I'm sure we can think about it, that if you really, really want to have a life after death, the correct solution is to donate your organs and donate your body without getting into all these other things which we have talked about. I and my wife have both donated our bodies. I mean, I'm just telling you, not that. So fine, I have come to the end of my pravachan. This is what I had brought as a research material to you. Please do not think they are my opinions. I have told you what my opinions are. And I don't think you should, be very worried about what my opinions are. So, there is one request that I would like to make. I'll show you a book of mine which is doing extremely well. It's called In and Out of the Box. Are you seeing a reverse image or are you seeing the correct image? I think you're seeing the reverse image. But this book is called In and Out of the Box. Many amongst you have purchased this book. It is on its third reprint and it's doing very well. We have gone beyond 2,000 copies. So therefore, those of you who are, it contains my own articles. This is my first book. And it contains my articles which I have written for various newspapers. And out of those 300 odd articles that I have written, about 60 or 70 are in here. My articles in Times of India, Economic Times, Hitwad, Rotary News and all kinds of. All of them are 1 or 2 pages, maximum 3 pages. And you can read from any end. It's not a novel which you have to start from this side and then end on the other side. And it's an extremely popular gifting option. The cost is 240. The MRP is 300. The cost is 240, including the delivery charges wherever you stay, in whichever part of India you stay. So what I would suggest is that those of you who are interested could send me a message on WhatsApp saying that you are interested in buying this copy, and we'll have it sent to you by speed post. Well, that was the last thing I wanted to tell you. Okay, now we've done it in 1 hour and 13 minutes because this recording started about 12 minutes before. So 1 hour 10 minutes is what it has taken us to complete this. In case there are any questions, now I understand many of you have asked those questions, but they have all scrolled and gone. So I won't be able to access them just now. But what I will do is, I can bring them back, of course. Let me see if there are some questions which I can answer. Mr. Gopal Rao says that all religions have drilled in us, be a good human being in this life. One second. In this life, either by incentives of going to heaven or a fear that you will go to hell. Fine. I agree with that. Religions, sometimes give you this reward and punishment theory so that people will remain in control of what they do. As long as it is, it's like the rules that we have in office saying that if you don't come, 9 o'clock is the office timing, the maximum that you are allowed is 10 minutes past 9. If you come beyond 10 minutes past 9, we will deduct half a day's leave from you. So then, based on that fear, people come at 9 o'clock or before 10 past 9. As long as you obey those rules in that spirit, I guess I'm fine with that. But then when you go beyond that and you start saying things which put fear inside you, saying that unless you imagine the Christian theory that if you go to hell you will be burnt in hot oil. Now tell me, a soul doesn't have a body of its own. It doesn't feel any sukha or dukha. So even if it is burnt in boiled oil, how does it matter? The soul has no feelings. The soul has no body to be, the skin to get burnt. So, but you insist that this is what will happen, therefore you behave well here. So, ऐसा है. Okay, let me see some more questions. Uttara Huddar is saying case from Nagpur, is it proven reincarnation? Now, if you are referring to the case that I said Dr. Kovur examined, none of the cases that he examined according to him were true. He found that all of them were done with some motive in mind. What motive in mind? He said it was either motive of profit or the parents wanted to earn money. None of them could stand the scrutiny, scientific scrutiny that he did. Okay, let me see what else. ओके रामचंद्र कुलकर्णी जी कह रहे हैं कि वेरी वेल इन्फॉर्म्ड रिसर्च सेशन. चलो ठीक है. We only, Nivedita Kulkarni is saying, we only leave behind our genes. That may be interpreted as so. All the genes die with our body. We leave behind our genes in our children. If that is what you mean, fine. That is okay. If you leave behind your genes in children, so if you consider your child as a rebirth of yourself, I think it's a good thought. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not what religion says. Then we have these days it's called time traveling. Sonal Trivedi is saying, trying to give a scientific angle to past life regression. Sonal, past life regression has not been accepted by the scientific community as a good enough theory which will sustain a lot of inquiry. Scientific theories need to sustain well in the face of inquiry. Then Rajesh Gupta ji wants me to talk about Bhrigu Samhita. Are Rajesh bhai, I am not an expert in Bhrigu Samhita, but I'll study it and maybe talk about it or send something to you. Kamalakar Pardhi is saying One Soul, Many Bodies by Dr. Weiss. Okay. Mr. Ezra has been saying that I have not mentioned anything about Jew beliefs. I agree, Mr. Ezra. That's a mistake in the sense it's my shortcoming. I will study the Jewish systems also, so that I could include this in the next edition of the same talk of mine. Who knows whether they are reborn and which religion to be referred to? Okay. You see, one thing that you must remember is that though Hinduism says that people get reborn after death, they claim that this is what will happen to everybody, whether someone is following Hinduism or not. Okay, Prakash Kumar ji कह रहे हैं कि we are a victim of fear and we fear death. Fear deflects us from knowing the mystery. I agree with you. Nitin Ghate is saying, why are birds, animals and other living organisms not reborn? Well, as I told you, the literature, Hindu literature is silent on this. Whether birds, animals and other organisms, whether they are reborn, and if yes, in what form. Because as I told you, a human being gets reborn because of his karma. But suppose he becomes a bird as a result of his having not done good karma. Then how will that bird once again, attempt to become a human being? He has to have some method of becoming a human being again by doing well in that life of his. But uske upar, no literature casts any light on that. Which means probably that once you go away from the human existence into some other animal's existence, then there is no path backwards. But this sounds illogical to me also, because it can't be a one-way street, can it be? Okay, what else is there? Yeah, that Rajesh Gupta ji again saying that this is to instill fear in people so that they behave well. To an extent, yes. I gave you an example of 9 o'clock attendance at office. That also puts fear in your mind that half a day's salary I will lose. But this kind of fear, virtually destroys you. Okay, Mr. Shrikant Gulkotkwar says that it is not true that Brahmins who perform Shraddha, who said about two different Brahmins. Well, Mr. Shrikant, I mean, I may stand to correction, but one thing is clear that the Brahmins who perform Shraddha are never invited to perform what we call as uh, auspicious occasions like marriage and other things. So, even I am surprised as to why this should be there, because a Brahmin is a Brahmin. Nitin Ghate is saying Lord Shiva used to drink. Is he a ghost? No, it does not apply to Lord Shiva, Nitin, because Lord Shiva is immortal. You will become a ghost only when you die. So therefore, Lord Shiva drinking liquor is a weird example. Okay, Mr. Gulkot Kwar is absolutely not happy with me. He's saying you're trying to confuse people. I mean, fine. I mean, I do get such reactions from my audience. I would request him to tell me where exactly did I try to deliberately confuse people. Rajesh Gupta saying death is not a sad event for the person who dies. For a person who dies, nothing is a sad or a happy event because he's dead and gone. I was talking only of the people who remain behind, because they are the ones who, they can feel grief, they can feel sad because somebody close to them has died. But somewhere in the corner of their mind, they should also feel happy that he has come one step nearer to attaining moksha. I don't see that feeling in any, relatives who remain back. Okay. The gentleman from Hong Kong is here. That was Nitin Ghate. Questions which I have not been able to see in this scroll, you're free to ask them to me right now, or we could say goodbye if that is what you think. Is there anything at all that I could answer even now? Okay, Alok Dhotekar says, I'm glad I attended. It's a nice stimulating session. Okay, I agree with you. You can accuse me of stimulating you. Anil Ambatkar is saying child is born before the death of mother. Before the death of mother. So how is that your child is rebirth? No. The child, okay. No, I was replying to Nivedita Kulkarni's suggestion that we leave behind genes. Now she was interpreting that as rebirth. Now, to the extent that we leave our genes in our children is some way of perpetuating our life. But do we consider our genes as ourself? If that was the case, fine. Then we will say that, okay, some element of my body has, been transmitted into my children. But if people take that kind of a point of view and consider that as a rebirth, that is not how religion considers rebirth. But I have no objection to someone interpreting rebirth that way. You should read a book called The Selfish Gene by, I think it's by Richard Dawkins. It talks very well about these, how genetic transfer takes place, and it's meant for lay people. Like Richard Dawkins is a professor of biology at Oxford. So the kind of biology he knows is far better than what you and I know. But he tries and explains it to a common person. Okay, then I think I'm so happy that all of you had the patience to continue in this webinar for 1.5 hours, and let's hope to meet sometime later on any such stimulating topic. I don't like speaking on ordinary humdrum topics, So we'll work out some stimulating topic where people are agitated that they have this opinion and someone else has the other kind of opinion. Only when you have a difference of opinion, तब तो मजा आता है ना इन सब topics में. Otherwise, if I give you a talk on is honesty good, it will finish in 5 minutes and all of us will agree and go home. So therefore, we'll work out some other topic. My only disappointment is that against the registration of 225, not even 100 people attended. That means that the figure went maximum up to I think 98 or something. So I need to find out why that happened. I'm sure I'm not responsible. People register and then they must have had second thoughts on it. Or there are so many webinars taking place these days that they must have got tired of webinars also. That could be one of the reasons. Fine, then let me bid goodbye to all of you and a very hearty namaskar once again. Thank you once again for attending this, and I hope to remain in touch with all of you in the future also. Bye.